Welcome back to another episode of Questions with Crocker with me, Dr. Crocker, my husband, Shane.
Hello.
And we have a special guest today.
Yay!
We are back in our hotel room at Western Veterinary Conference. It is early in the morning, so we are still getting going. I got my coffee right here. I'm excited, but why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Dr. Christine Staten. I am a 25-year graduate of Colorado State University. I have an 11-doctor practice in Tucson, Arizona that started out as a solo ambulatory practice. I joined my practitioner, my vet growing up, and we grew it into this awesome thing that we love being at every single day.
And I really wanted to have you on because I visited the practice, and the team, the vibe, and just the way the practice is set up, I think is very unique. It's forward thinking, but it also is a mixed animal practice. You're doing horses, you're doing pigs, you have ambulatory, you have a small animal hospital, and it kind of epitomizes like all the things we can be doing. And I think veterinary medicine is becoming more and more kind of specific in what they do, and you still have a very broad range with what the practice covers. So was that really intentional because you started out ambulatory that it continued to kind of service so many different things? Or was that just you saw a need and you wanted to fill it?
Yeah. So this is my community. I grew up in this community. I rode my horse down the road that my practice is on. I was a 4-H kid. I wanted to serve my community. Like that was my main goal with scaling this practice and keeping it big. And we wanted to take care of livestock and horses because that's what I grew up doing.
Mm-hmm.
But we also knew that having a dog and cat clinic would help us take care of our community, but also financially, as a large animal practice only, we really couldn't afford things like a great digital x-ray machine in the in the early 2000s.
You're like,
when they were brand new, we couldn't afford like blood machines and things that a large animal practice really didn't have back then.
Right.
Getting the small animal practice in there allowed us to get this equipment, especially the diagnostic equipment that allowed us to be a better practice all around, and we could serve our community. And at one point we said, we're going to serve any animal. And we did bring an exotics vet in, and it just didn't work for us. It was really hard in our treatment area to have a dog and a bird, and our staff really just didn't like it. It made them uncomfortable. We didn't have a team that loved it. And we only had one exotic vet, and she worked 4 days a week. We're open 6 days a week. It's, I was seeing a prairie dog on a Saturday, and I'm like, what am I doing here? So exotics didn't work for us, but we now see dogs, cats, and we say anything with a hoof and a name. So it's a pet livestock practice. We don't do a ton of production. And I think the reason that we do all these things is because individuals in the practice love all these things.
Yes.
We wouldn't do anything that we don't like doing.
I like that because there's a lot of people out there that are doing things they don't like, and they went into veterinary medicine to really love helping pets and love, helping the people they're attached to, hopefully. And so when you start to have to do things that you're not comfortable with or that you're not passionate about, I think that causes it not to be sustainable for you long term. And I'm the same way. I've structured things where I go into my practice and I do the things I really enjoy. I do the hard surgeries. I like dentistry, but I don't do a lot of skin. I don't do a lot of the routine things just because that's not really what my passion is. And I have other people that fill that need that really like that. So you have veterinarians, and I need to eventually get to the questions that people sent, but you have veterinarians that specifically work with certain types of animals, or how does that work exactly? When they come on board, do they say, this is what I enjoy the most? Or do you kind of figure that out as they're part of the team?
We have a completely separate small animal team and a completely separate large animal team. So our doctors are small animal doctors or large animal doctors, and there's no crossover in that. We did have one doctor that came on that wanted to do both. So she did 2 days small, 2 days large. And for her, it was a big struggle. Follow-up was really big. She's getting dog blood work back when she's out in the field. And it just was hard for her to manage. If somebody else wanted to do that, we would entertain it. But at this point, this works. It's just working for us. And to your point about not doing what you want, when I was an ambulatory veterinarian, the thing I hated most was castrating horses. I could flip a horse, but I had no tech. I could flip a horse and repair a hernia on an adult. I could take an eye out of a horse. I could do a lot of things that other vets didn't want to do, but I hated castration. And I finally went to, at the time, she was my business partner, the other veterinarian, and I said, I don't want to do these anymore. And she said, you have to do 4 more. And I was like, okay, that's easy. Yeah. I did 4 more. And then I was like, and I'm done. And she's like, you're serious? And I'm like, I'm serious. They give me anxiety. I don't like doing them. And I love doing all these other things. Yeah. So I stopped doing that.
I like that. Yeah. And you also, this will be the last thing before we actually get to the questions, but didn't you also stop doing nail trims in your practice?
Yes. Best decision we've ever made. My techs love it so much. So January 1st of 2023, we stopped doing nail trims because I had 3 people in my practice go to urgent care in the year before. We had a dog that was totally fine, but the owner was convinced that we gave it a GDV. It didn't have one, but she really lost her mind, and it was a really difficult thing to manage through. And then we had a dog that did have a dislocated hip, and we do it as gentle as we can, but sometimes it's 4 people laying on a dog. And I was getting frustrated because I'm like, where are all the techs? Well, they're trimming dog nails. And the dogs hated coming to the practice. So things we've seen since then, our team loves that we don't do them. The dogs that used to hate coming don't hate coming anymore. And when new people come and are hired, you can see the relief. They're like, you don't do that?
Yeah.
I'm like, no. And we did set our clients up for success. Before we rolled that out, we put videos on our website on how to do it. We called all the local groomers and we made a list of who could do it for them. We gave them, 8-week notice and said, you can come in one more time. We're going to spend extra time with you teaching you how to do it. So we didn't just
stop it. Yeah.
But we've never looked back.
I like that. That. I feel like my finance guy needs to look at the numbers on nail trims and see what that looks like for us.
I'm sure we don't charge enough, is my guess.
No, I don't think we charge enough. I think we charge $27, $30 maybe for a nail trim. And you're right. It takes multiple people. So we're definitely losing money most of the time on a nail trim. How do you feel about that?
Get rid of it.
Well, let's get into the questions. So the podcast is based off of questions that people send to us. And we got a lot of questions, which I absolutely love. The first one is, I think, a good one that we'll do like a short and sweet answer. I think you and I are on the same page about a lot of this. But at Paloma Dam wanted to know, how do you feel about private versus corporate practices for younger veterinarians and new grads to go into? Pros and cons. Do you feel like there's one way that's best, or is it kind of dependent on the person?
Yeah, I don't know that I'm super qualified to answer this. I can tell you that
we're not qualified to answer any of the questions we answer. We just kind of give our opinion, and
this is all based off our experience. So you do. Let's say you do have a ton of students come through, and you do deal with, because the University of Arizona is close, right? Yes. You deal with a ton of vet students and new grads. So you do have some insight into what they're looking for.
I do.
So, and you've also hired some, and you've lost some to corporate practices that you were talking to. So what are your thoughts and feelings on why they go one way or the other and what they should be thinking about?
So my experience is from the students. So we had 32 students come through our practice last year. We love having students. And when they realize that I'm passionate about business, they tend to bring me their contracts. So I got to sit with a bunch of students with private and corporate contracts and give them my opinion, not my attorney opinion. I'm not an attorney, but give them my thoughts on things that I saw in them. And I think corporate has a place. I think it's fine. I think that some students may get a lot of benefit there. There's a lot of mentorship programs that are more structured, I think, there. There's different kinds of mentorship in private practices. Everyone's going to be different. So I think it's about fit. And if the fit tells you go to a corporate practice, go to a corporate practice. If the fit tells you to go to a private practice, go to a private practice. But what I have found, the big difference I've found, just my experience looking through these, is that the private practices basically are giving them the best deal they can. There's no negotiation room. And the corporate practice contracts, when I've worked with students, are basically coming in low, expecting them to come in higher and meeting them somewhere in the middle. And I think that's weird. To me, that's very like used car-ish.
And part of that is probably because you have recruiters and have people telling the students everything's negotiable, come back with this type of number. So I think they're being coached in the fact that they should be asking for the moon and stars, and that's part of it. But I agree with you. If I am talking to you about coming to work there, I'm going to try to figure out what do you really need and want out of the relationship. And I'm going to try to meet that need with my offer. I'm not wanting to have a big back and forth.
So should a private practice owner set the stage to say, hey, look, there's a good chance you're going to see other offers that you're going to negotiate against. I want to let you know in advance. This is the absolute best we can do. Should they be more upfront with that to kind of set the...
For sure. I am 100% upfront. So in my practice, every large animal contract is identical. My contract is identical to theirs. And every small animal contract is identical. They could just change the names on them. So I tell them that right up front. I say, this is the contract and I can't negotiate it, but it's really good. And this is the best I can do to stay financially healthy. And you want to work at a financially healthy practice. And they know that going in. I think for me, it kind of throws me when they try to negotiate it. So if they want to negotiate something, they can negotiate in lieu of, oh, you want me to pay $6,000 this year towards your tuition, take $6,000 off your base salary? Sure. Yeah. That's great. I can do things to help you. And we've got some flexible benefits. So we have a well-being benefit, which basically means they can get anything they want that makes their life happy up to a certain amount. I think it's $250 a year. So I've bought a lot of treadmills. I've paid for a lot of things that they want to do. So if they say, oh, I want a gym membership, great. Use your well-being benefit to get that. And that's for my whole team, not just my doctors.
I like that. And my biggest thing is it's a conversation to be had. And I don't have time to play games. And so I think that it's important to have that back and forth and then be able to ask questions. But ultimately, you don't want a big group of lawyers that's making a contract that nobody can understand, nobody can read, and potentially has some scary loopholes or things that could catch you in the future, which that's what I sometimes see the difference being between the two contracts and the two deals. And I do agree it's very dependent on location and the place you're going to go and their mentorship. There's some really great corporate practices with great mentorship and good leadership. And then, there's some great private practices too. And then they both have hospitals that are not great. Like, let's be honest. So I do think talking to people that have experienced certain practices, visited, doing working interviews, all that would be something that I would highly recommend young veterinarians do to really decide if it's the right fit for them or not.
I want to go down a loophole real quick. So you have standardized contracts for the doctors. What about your support staff? Do they all have kind of the same standardized pay or levels, or what does that look like as well?
Yeah. Oh, we love our tier system. So we do performance-based compensation for all of our team members that aren't doctors. Our doctors are in ProSal, and they come in and they have lists of soft skills, hard skills, knowledge, and they have to move themselves up. It's all self-motivated. So they come in at tier 0. They have to reach tier 1 by 90 days. And tier 1 is essentially everything we're going to teach them in their orientation and onboarding. So they should make it. And we, this is off a little, but if they can't make that in 90 days, we have found that they're not going to be a good fit for us moving forward, because we're a learning and growing practice, and a tier system is really dependent on them being able to move through these tiers by themselves. And if we're helping them in tier 1 get through it and they're struggling, it's not going to work. And so I think it's hard when you work really hard to hire the right person to admit that maybe it's not the right person, but we're much better about helping them find a different job, or, they don't stay in our practice if they can't. So that's the first tier. After that, they could stay at tier 1, their whole employee with me, but they can move up, and each tier has a pay grade, and they're posted in our break room. Everyone knows what everyone else makes. I had a technician say, my husband and I are wanting to buy our first house. I'm going to try to move up a tier. Like, she knew it wasn't about me giving her a raise. It was about her earning that. So we love our performance-based tiers. They have saved my life as an owner because I was horrible at hiring, at what wage to hire, when to give raises. Like, it was a mess.
It seems like that is a common theme that a lot of really great practice owners with large practices are like, I was horrible at hiring and I had to find a different system and method. And we also, after talking with you and visiting with you, we do the levels also. And it does help to be able to have the conversation with your team member of, okay, you want to get paid more. Here's, what you need to do to accomplish that. And this is the skills you can work on, and let me support you in that. So I like having something very tangible that they can look at. And it's not just, I really like you, let me give you a raise,
right. Or you asked for it. That was mine. They like came in and asked for it. And I was like, oh, you're right. You totally deserve a raise. So the quiet person didn't get the raise. And then that backfired. Yeah, we love it. And you said you're supporting them, but the whole team supports each other. We have a board. If you're really close to your tiers and there's like a couple hard skills that you need to accomplish, they put it on the board and they announce it at our morning huddle like, hey guys, I need to get one more cat IV. And you'll hear somebody go, hey, where's Mary? I'm about to do a cat IV. Somebody trade her out in the room so she can get this done. So it creates this just incredible collaboration in the whole team. And there's not competition. It's fantastic.
I love that. Okay, so back to the questions. One of my favorite vet couple, Neangela, the vets, love them.
Love them.
They have a newer practice, and she wanted to know, when does it get easier? When does it kind of start slowing down and things start flowing better? Because they are a busy mixed animal practice. They just opened the doors and it has been insane. And so is there a time period where you get to a point that you say, okay, I can kind of sit back a little bit? Or is your personality just, I'm always running?
No, all the time I sit back and then the next day, something goes down. I think we never totally coast, but we get to points where we're coasting for a longer period of time. And they have 2 toddlers, right? So I did too. I had 4 kids when we opened the doors of our physical clinic, which is kind of when I think my practice owner journey really started, because before that I didn't have team members. So when I opened the doors of our clinic, I had 4 kids, 9 and under, and it was just crazy. And every day is a little bit crazy. And theirs is a mixed animal practice too, which is hard. So I think for me, getting bigger was helpful to me. For other people, they don't want to get bigger. That's harder. And certainly establishing management and middle management is a godsend. Once you start trusting them.
Yes.
Then, and you have to check and you have to trust but verify. But yeah, I have a lot more flexibility and downtime in my life with 55 team members than I did when I had 8 team members.
55,
that's a lot.
It sounds insane. And that was actually a common question a couple people asked. With having such a large team, like we have 9, and we've kind of worked.
Which is about 8 too many.
We've kind of worked through like how to communicate, how to make sure that, everyone knows the expectations and knows when we change things. What are some really great ways that you found that you communicate with everyone? Is there apps? Is there tips and tricks? What are some of the takeaways you would tell someone as their team grows about communication?
So I think when I talk about my practice, I'm like, we have all these great methods of communication. But when someone asks me and I describe it, it sounds super chaotic. So I'm embarrassed, but it works for us.
Yeah, if it works.
We have, we don't have meetings that could have been an email.
Okay.
Like we don't stand up in front and talk during our team meeting. So once a month we have a big team meeting, and it's generally topics that are collaborative discussions. And then we break up into groups, department groups, and have department meetings those days. But we have a weekly email that goes out. My manager does the whole thing. Anything that everyone needs to know is in that email. I think they read it all the time.
Yeah.
We ask them in their satisfaction survey every year, do you read the email all the time, most of the time, some of the time, none of the time? And it's so funny. I love that they're so honest. There's a lot of most of the times.
Yeah.
I didn't read it. And then we have a chalkboard. So we do a morning huddle. And the morning huddle is just who's with who today, really. And does anyone have any special needs, like personal needs that we need to know about? And then we read off a board. And that board, anyone can write anything on it. And they put a date and we read it for 1 week and then we erase it off the board. So that's like, hey, the tiger top tubes are now yellow.
Mhm.
Like something that everyone needs to know is on that board. So every single person will hear that multiple times that
Well,
week.
and especially because you're open 6 days a week and you have people in different shifts and on different days, you need something that is consistent in that way. You have a meeting every morning, though? Everyone comes together?
Yeah, we have a
and-
huddle, and
Okay.
it's 5 minutes. It's yeah.
But still, it's a good touch point. It's a
It's
good
touch point. Who's
we-
here, who's not here. And I think, post 2020, more people call in sick than they used to.
Mhm.
Pre 2020, we came to work sick. We hacked all over each other.
Mhm.
We just said, well, why don't you be in the back, not in rooms, because you're so disgustingly sick. And that's how we lived. And now you call in sick more because no one wants to be around sick people like they used to. So every morning we've rearranged the schedule. This person's going to be with this person now based on somebody called in today.
And is your practice manager kind of running that quick huddle every morning?
No, we have our treatment technician. So whoever's assigned treatment tech. So it's a different person each day. That's their responsibility
Great.
to start it. And we don't say, hey, everybody get here. At 7:45, we start talking and they should be there. And the receptionists come, all but one that stays up front. Sometimes two stay up front. And they can take the information back to the others. But everyone else comes. The pet resort's there, tells us if any of the animals, might need some care.
something. You actually mentioned the receptionist. And so this is one of the things I thought was interesting at your practice and that I want to steal, but in our renovation, we didn't have room for it. But you have a call center for phone calls. And I can imagine with as many veterinarians as you have, there's a lot of phone calls. So tell me a little bit about the decision to change the way you took phone calls during the day at the practice and what that looks like.
I love our call center. It's my favorite room in the clinic. And actually, we're doing a renovation and we're making a bigger call center and we're actually moving it further from the front. So they don't even need to be up there.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 2 receptionists that sit at our front desk. And when incoming calls come in, their phone does ring. In our new building, they won't receive incoming calls up front at all. It'll be more of a concierge that's up front. But the people in the call center will answer it first. And so our call center has 2 receptionists in it each day. And then we also have a technician that's in there. And that technician rotates. It's a small animal technician. And that to me, changed that iron curtain that was between reception and techs. And they do this and they do that. Now they're working in a room together and they help each other through the day. The small animal tech can take a lot of the medical questions and calls. And they see how hard the receptionists work. And since everyone rotates through it, there's a more of a mutual respect. You can't be that mad at people that you have to spend the whole day in a room with.
Yeah.
So it's been absolutely wonderful for us. Plus, I think reception's really a hard job to be on all day in front of people and not relax. And so being in the call center lets them, between calls, they don't have to smile all day.
Yeah. I love it because there's something about when people are trying to check in or out and then, the receptionist is saying hold on a second and they're answering the phone call and then they're saying, can you hold please? And they're putting them back on hold. And, and it seems like you can't give the attention to the pet owner who's there physically in your building the way that I really want them to get it. And then the person on the phone is on hold and they're having to wait too. And so all around, it's not the customer experience I want to have. And we've been talking about ways that we could change that. But that was one of the things when we walk through and you're like, that's my call center. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Tell me about it. Tell me everything. So, and I've heard about more and more people doing it that way.
So the concierge at the front, the person comes in for the appointment. Do they take them immediately to their room? What does that look like?
Well, ultimately, yes, it'll be more like that. Right now, sometimes they put them directly in a room. We're remodeling because we're running out of room space. We've got, we just don't have enough exam rooms. So right now we do have people that'll wait in our waiting room. Our waiting room is going to get a little bit smaller. So the concierge, or the goal is to get them into a room, but they're also going to help people who come in and need to pick up meds or do other things. So there's other people in the lobby that aren't going to go into the room, but the goal is to get them into the room if there's a room available and ready.
Yeah. Is there a way to get rid of a lobby altogether?
Yeah.
Well, it makes no income. That's the deal. Exam rooms make income. And just from an economic standpoint, lobbies make me crazy. So we're making ours smaller and pushing exam rooms into that area. There has to be somewhere for people to walk in and
Be
pick up
greeted.
meds and be greeted. And we don't have a hospitality center. We don't have a kids corner. We used to have some of those things, but we don't anymore because people don't hang out there.
Yeah.
We just try not to keep them in there. I think there has to be some greeting area, but it can be a small area with a podium. Doesn't even have to have chairs for them if you're going to get them seated or get them in a room.
More and more, I'm seeing the lobbies get smaller unless you have a, practice that is set up to be walk-in only, maybe more urgent care where, you can't plan as well, like who's coming in the door. But efficiency-wise, we're looking at trying to have them walk in and pretty much welcome, greet, and put them in a room because I hate people all sitting up front. It makes me absolutely crazy. So there was a lot of questions about kind of the mixed animal side of things. So at Dr. Jarnell wanted to know, how do you have an efficient practice still with balancing farm calls versus haul-in clients with your large animal side? Is there a structure to that? Is it kind of what people need on that day? Or do you have enough vets that you have kind of one at the hospital versus everyone else out in the field? Or is it all farm calls?
It's different every day.
Okay.
So it meets the client's needs. And that's a change that we need. We're working on like zones because our radius, we tried to keep it an hour from our clinic, but that means that from one end to the other is 2 hours. So the good news is since I'm a large animal veterinarian, but I don't go out in the field anymore. So we have 5 veterinarians that rotate. So we have 3 or 4 on every day. At least 2 trucks are in the field. We have 3 ambulatory trucks, and then sometimes one's in the clinic. And a lot of times they see a couple appointments in the clinic, and then they go out in the field for the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day is different for us there. We see a lot of pet livestock. We really want those animals to come in. Our goats, our pigs. We can run blood work in-house. We can take radiographs on them right away. So the diagnostic tools for them are at the clinic.
Mm-hmm.
So we do see those. We tend to see our farm animals at the clinic mostly.
And then your horses more.
And the horses, we can't, the haul-in service never took off like we'd hoped. Us and the other practices in town, less than 30% of our equine appointments are in clinic.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of topped out at that, and that's where it stayed. And the other practices are the same. So the ambulatory service still needs to be there.
I do think a lot of people and a lot of students actually say, I want to work at a mixed animal practice. And then people say, I have a mixed animal practice, but it's 5% equine and the rest is small animal. And you maybe have one vet that does a little bit of equine. So your practice is a true mixed animal practice because you do see a lot of different pets. But I think it's sometimes used as a marketing tool for someone to say, we're a mixed animal. But the reality is they're not. They're small animal with like a sprinkle of equine. Have you seen that too? Or am I...
No, I've heard students say that. Yeah. I think the reason that we have a lot of students want to come to us is because we will give them a mixed animal experience.
Mm-hmm.
They can spend a whole day with large, a whole day with small. We actually bring, when they're on a small animal 4-week rotation, we have pig day every Wednesday, which we call pig day, but it's any anesthetized procedures on any of our large animal patients. So we might have some horses in the round pen that are getting knocked down to have procedures. We definitely have, 5 to 10 anesthetized procedures of goats and pigs every Wednesday. So we pull the small animal over because it's a really unique experience for them. And I think it's a draw, even if they want to just do small animal.
So not to nerd out, but on the mobile side of things, when you're sending trucks out to go see horses, do you see the margins that you would normally see if, like on the small animal side, are the margins comparable when you have a vet going out and the logistics of how many patients they can see, et cetera?
So driving, no. The drive time is not good. So if we can geographically schedule well, then it's great. We go to a certain area, we see a bunch of patients, they pay a call fee that's depending on the zone that they're in, that starts at $85. So that's kind of compensating for a little bit of it. The big thing is there's less resources that I have to take into account. They have one technician with them, usually a technician and a student. So in clinic, my small animal doctors have 2 technicians directly assigned to them, and they have 2 treatment techs that are helping them through the day.
That's
and they
an
have
amazing ratio.
A tech assistant too. And the two treatment techs are helping all the doctors that are on. But yeah, so there's less resources going out. So I can't crunch the numbers really well to figure that out. But a lot of times we'll go to a place and see 8 horses. And that is much more efficient than seeing 8 in-clinic appointments, large animal or small animal. And in our renovation, we're building 2 treatment areas for our large animal because that has been a barrier in that the doctor is directly involved with everything in an appointment because I only have 1 large animal treatment area. So if it needs an x-ray, the doctor's helping take the x-rays. Whereas, or, for running IV fluids, it's kind of taking up our treatment area. Where now if I have 2 treatment areas, I can have 1 doctor and it's very small animal, like where they have a tech in this area and this area. So I think our efficiency is going to improve with a little bit of tweaking. But I think that our margins are fine. Like, I think that, are they comparable?
You're filling a need too. So there's we have this discussion all the time / argument of, I'm the same as you. This is my community. This is where I grew up. I want to help serve those people with the hospital. I don't want to be the most expensive practice that nobody can afford to help, their animals at, but I also want to provide the services that they need. And so I understand where he's coming from with the finance side of it, but there is a component of me that is like, but this is what I need to do is I need to try to do these things to help the pets that are in our area.
I need to eat.
Yeah. I feel like I lean more towards Shane. Yeah. But here's our problem. We have always operated as 1 practice, and we are in the process of dividing that into 2 practices. We're going to know a lot about our numbers, and I'm a little scared to find out what, is small animal supporting large? Is large animal supporting itself? Yeah. We've got to figure it out.
I love that. Just to be able to see on a P&L.
Yeah.
How do these entities actually run? I think that'd be a really cool case study, I think.
Yeah. I hope it's not a case study of
failure.
We've been operating a whole department that loses money and the other one supports it. Yeah.
I do think so. Talking about numbers, talking about P&Ls, you don't just have a DBM, right? You have other degrees. So talk a little bit about why you pursued more learning, and I know you have a culture of learning, but you personally have done a lot more also.
Yeah, I had a bucket list of wanting to, like a bucket list item of wanting to get my MBA. And I had 5 kids and was running this practice and growing this practice. And really, it was just a dream. Like, that would be fun to do. And I got to a point a couple of years ago where I could cash flow it. And I said, I'm going to do this. And I jumped in, and it was crazy, but it was so fun. And I think everything I learned in my MBA, I could have learned on YouTube, but I never would have. And I really just loved taking everything I was learning and applying it to my practice. And I think one of the questions that may be on there is about a combined DVM MBA.
I was going to say, Barry D wanted to know about, because they have the dual degrees now in veterinary school where you can get both at the same time.
So I have no way of knowing if that would have helped me a whole lot. It helped me to have a practice for 20 years and now take that information and go, oh my gosh, and really apply it to my practice. And I was definitely a different student than the people I was with who were not practice owners at the time.
I was going to say that I grew up in a very corporate world, and a lot of the pedigree was get an MBA from an Ivy League school. But a lot of that was I went to undergrad. I immediately got into business school to get my MBA, but they have no real experience. They have no, they're checking the boxes, they're answering the questions, but they don't have that experience to say, okay, how do I actually apply this to run a business?
Sure.
So I think having that experience and then going back to get an MBA probably does wonders.
Yeah, I loved that path. And they taught a business class even back in the old days when I went to veterinary school, and it was fantastic. Jim Wilson came in, Mark Opperman came in and taught us business. They were literally the only 2 business people back then. And I loved it, but I was really preoccupied with, medicine and trying to study for my NAVLE and
just
deal
be
with
a good
clinics
veterinarian
and be a good veterinarian. Yeah. And I knew I was going to leave with, back then we didn't talk about mentorship, but I was going to be in a truck by myself with no internet, no cell phone. I needed to learn how to be a veterinarian. And so that would have been distracting for me to have to get an MBA then. Other people might want to do it. I think you're getting letters. You're not necessarily getting the knowledge that you're going to want later. And I loved getting it later. And I took a program that didn't have any macroeconomics, any international business. I was able to do a concentration, focused track on entrepreneurship and family business, which was phenomenal.
And speaking of family and business, one of your daughters is in vet school, right?
Yes.
And does she have any interest in the business side of things, or is that all learning the medicine?
Yeah, she does. She's grown up in a house that we have 5 different businesses, and literally the tax benefits of owning businesses is something that she knows and understands. And I think everyone needs to know and understand, even if you're a technician at a veterinary clinic, own a business, somehow own something on the side, because the entire tax code is set up to help
Small business
non-W-2
owners.
wage earners.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, she's excited about that part. She wants to be a small animal veterinarian. She's joining us in August, which is
nice.
super exciting. So she'll be our 6th small animal veterinarian.
Love
And
that.
she definitely has an interest in practice ownership in the future.
Well, she has a good teacher in you, which is great.
Great.
And you have actually taken all your experience and your MBA and started online courses. You're on social media as Veterinary MBA, and you are doing courses that can be accessed anytime, where people can drill down a lot more. I actually was talking to Shane about some of them, about the tax benefits, about how to hire, about team dynamics. We had a ton of questions about culture, but giving people very applicable things that they can do, because you've taken it and you've actually put it into practice. And so talk a little bit more about why you decided to kind of start doing that and putting that content out there, and then where everyone can find and access that.
Awesome. Yeah. So I was a business nerd before I went to veterinary school. It's a huge part of why I went to veterinary school, the entrepreneurial part.
You said that you didn't want to be like a vet since you were 5 because the puppies and kitties. Like
I was on track to be a medical doctor, and I changed course after I graduated college. I never took an animal course in college. I changed course and went to veterinary medicine, and the 2 biggest reasons were entrepreneurship, and I didn't want to do an internship, residency, and fellowship. I just didn't want to move my family around. We were married early. We had kids already. So those are the 2 biggest. The third I didn't realize that is the huge benefit between the 2 is the flexibility for us to do something totally different tomorrow. I could hang a sign on my clinic tomorrow and say, we're a bird clinic, and we'd be a bird clinic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just crazy to me how we have that. But that wasn't moving me towards it. And so whenever I'd go to meetings and conferences, again, this is pre-internet, I would try to find practice owners that were successful and sit with them and hang out with them between lectures, take them to lunch. And I found myself on the receiving end of a lot of information. And as time went on, I recognized that I was on the giving end, and I was having these conversations still, and I was being invited to lunches, and I loved it, and it fueled me. And at the same time, a couple of years ago, I became physically unable to do some of the work I do. My neck and back and shoulder just aren't working like they should. And the pain was getting enormous. And I knew I had to give up some stuff. And so I slowly gave up equine dentistry. And then I knew I had to give up some of the other medicine. And so I thought, well, what am I going to do with my time? And I literally went through all the options, because I have all the options. I
feel like you're not good with not doing something.
Yeah.
You and I are similar.
Statement. Yeah.
I'm like, I'll try to relax. And I sit there, I'm like, I should make a list of things I need to be doing.
Relaxing's the worst. I hate it. So I just thought through all the things. Should I be a small animal veterinarian? Should I go get acupuncture certified? What should I do? Like, I didn't know. And then I thought, what fuels me is talking to business owners. So I thought, this is a great time to go back and get my MBA. This is where I want to see, could I do this and help other practice owners, but also monetize it, because I'm about to lose production by going out of practice. So that's where it started. And I got my MBA, and then immediately started building out courses, which I do live on Zoom, and then they're pre-recorded and people can go online and purchase them. And the connections I've made through that and the conversations are just amazing. Even at this conference, people are coming up and talking about some of the courses they've taken, and then I'm allowed, not allowed, I'm able to elaborate, and we can have conversations
more in depth. Yeah.
So who else interested in the courses? Is that a lot of people that already own their practices, or is it young people that want to own a practice in the future? What are you seeing the most out of that?
So when I first did it, I thought practice owners and managers are the people that I want to talk to. But I realized very quickly that on my Instagram, half of my followers were students. And I kept thinking, why are they here? Because this is my business. Like, this is literally the business account. So now I've got resources for them too.
Love
So
that.
we have a path to practice ownership, and students and associates are super excited about that. That actually starts when this releases, it'll already be released.
Yeah.
But it starts on Friday, and I've never been more excited about anything, because it's what I would have wanted when I was starting.
Mm-hmm.
And so are all the courses there. I talk a lot about my mistakes. I've always said I want to write a book called How Not to Run a Veterinary Practice.
You need to do it. That's on the to-do list. That's a great title too.
Don't take my title.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, right?
Take my title. But that's what I'm able to do here is go, let me tell you how I did this wrong. Let me tell how I did it right. And I've learned through the MBA and other things, other ways to try things and what's worked for my practice.
And I think that is important, that there's not one way to do everything, but there are some very just nuts and bolts of practice ownership with the financial side of things, with how to communicate, with team culture, that you can really learn a lot from someone who has been there and done it so successfully. So I definitely encourage everyone to check out Veterinary MBA and check out your hospital in Arizona, because you are so welcoming to have people come in and show them what you're doing. Can't wait to see the renovation. We're in the middle of renovating, and we're making it. It's a process for sure. But we're out of time. We need to go. We could talk all day. We talk all the time about this stuff.
I feel like we reference stuff that you do or say all the time.
Yes,
Oh,
we do.
so fun.
I'm like, well, at her practice. So I appreciate you being a mentor to me, being a friend to me, and just being here in general. If anyone has questions for you, is Instagram the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, or veterinary-mba.com is my website. And that I know a lot of practice owners aren't on Instagram that I've found.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they can go on veterinary_MBA is my Instagram, and veterinary-mba.com is the website, and they can email directly through there.
I love it. Okay, if you guys enjoyed this episode, if you have additional questions, you can reach out to us on social media at Questions with Crocker. You can leave a review on Apple or Spotify, and you can watch our lovely tired faces here at the conference on YouTube. We appreciate you being here, and have a great day.